When I have controls on my window, well, to get them, I can just drag them out from the tools palette. But how do I change them? How did I change this one into this green button-like thing? It is actually graphic. Well, first of all, you need to be in edit mode. And then there are actually 4 ways to bring up the inspector. And it is in the inspector where you can change all the settings. So the first way is to just double click on the control. And then it brings up the inspector. But if the inspector is already up, well, then you just need to click on the control because it tags along to the currently selected control. And that is good to remember. In this window, you have a lot of tabs, and these are almost all the settings. There might be some few that are not in the inspector, but they are mainly here. And as you can see, the tabs changes and the content within the window changes depending on the control you select. So it is good to have a habit to take a peek up in the title first to ensure that you're actually changing the control you think you're changing. Because one common mistake is that you have something selected, then you try something out, and then you think that, oh, I need to change the name of that one, and then you change this one to save, and then you start to think, why didn't my button change? Well, now it says stack, and now I need to change this back to something else. So it is important to remember that when you run, it always shows the stack, unless you have selected the first button here, and that is the lock inspector. And if you would like the inspector to kind of be glued to the control, well, then you can lock it. Now it says graphic save, and if I select something else, well, it doesn't changes. But what happens now if I right click on something or double click? Well, then you get another inspector. And you can continue with this if you want to, so you can have as many inspectors as you want. As soon as I unlock this inspector again, it will now swap to the field that I have selected in my window. So the next button here is to get to the script window, and we will come back to that later also. The third button is to also inspect another control without changing the selection. So here I can go to the widget clock, for example, and now you see it says widget clock. But the only way to inspect something without changing the selection is to lock. So it automatically locks when you inspect another item. If I unlock again, well, then it will jump back as usual. The last one is to get to the preferences for the inspector windows. Here you can say if you would like to say the description of the option, or if you would like to see the name of the LiveCode property. And these LiveCode properties, they are how you would like to call them when you change them via code. That we do a lot later on. And another good thing with this is that if there is something that you don't realize what it is, like this shared text, what does that mean? Well, this is the property shared text in one word. You can bring up the dictionary, and in the dictionary we can hunt for shared text, and you can see that here you see the property, and you can read about it, and you can see some kind of example in the code for this one. So it is good to know that you can kind of read about them in the dictionary if you know what they are named. And still, if you have this one, then if you hover over, they will show the name as a kind of pop-up label or tooltip or whatever you call it. So that is the inspector. One final thing with the inspector is that you can easily select multiple controls. So I can select this one. I can hold down my shift key, select that one, and that one, and that one. Now you see that the name here is grayed out. And if I go to this tab, for example, for size and positioning, they are all grayed out. What does this mean? Well, it doesn't mean that you can't change them. It means that they have different values. So if I go on the left, for example, and write 100 and hit return, well, now you see that they all line up 100 pixels from the left edge of the window. So, and now it is white because now it has the same value for all of them. So you can use this if you would like to have something that is pixel perfect. And remember, grayed out means that they have different values. White means that they have the same value. So we will come back to this over and over again. So now you know how to get to the settings for each control.